in self-employment and entrepreneurship and inclusion. We rank low on racial integration, and that's why our innovation and entrepreneurship ratings are so low relative to the other metros. So what can we do about that?
Can I ask a question related to that? Because I cannot speak because I don't know what the conversation is here, but I have been struck in conversation elsewhere in the region that this phenomenon we have of a resurgent regional economy, yet rising poverty, in many people's minds feels like two separate issues. That we have an economic thing going on, and then we have a social or moral thing going on. Where this research and other research I've read have said that, in fact, those are really intertwined, and feel what you may feel about the social and moral issues related to poverty, that it's a core economic issue, and that one of the factors that will limit our growth is the fact that we have this rising of polarization and these persistent issues. And so I think it's great if the departure point for the conversation is, well, what do we do? But in a lot of areas of the region, there's not a felt belief that those opportunity issues are really core economic issues. And I'm just curious, are those two worlds here, or is it have you gotten to the point where it is one world and we talk about, well, what to do about, as opposed to how do we take these two different worlds, growth and opportunity, and pull them together?
I think they're two worlds.
Sorry?
I said, I think there are two worlds right now. What we have and where we're going.
I want to, if somebody wants to answer that before I start, I'm going to ask some other question.
I just want to say, we can talk about well-paying jobs. We can talk about innovation. We can talk about all of these lofty goals, and each and every one of us. But there's getting there. You can't forget about how the hell do you get there? If anybody in the room that's in manufacturing, ask any manufacturer, do they have jobs available? The answer could be, yeah. What's your biggest challenge? Getting somebody to pass a urine test. I mean, we're not going to fix that here today. But if we're unaware of that, we can sit here today and all we have to do is put some training together and get better jobs. Look around the room today. This is not a very inclusive group. I mean, we all have to take responsibility for that. Not just us, but the whole community. And there's issues with that within the community. So, I mean, this is good stuff that you're presenting today. It's a challenge for us to deal with it. And I want to come back to one basic premise. That if we can't deal with that collectively in Stark County, or in this MSA, we're going to be here 10 years from now having the same conversation. Because everybody's going to be doing their own damn thing. And what's important to the city may not be important to the township. But yet, when the figures come out, it's important to everybody. A couple of years ago, this is a true story. You remember when Forbes.com did the fastest dying cities? We all remember. Because 4 of the 10 were in Ohio. Canton was one of them. Mayor, you had just, I think, come on.
Would you stop reminding me?
Yeah. At least I remembered your name.
You said mayor.
Let me just say, Canton was one of them. And when that story came out, unless you read the fine print, that it was the Canton-Massillon MSA, which is all of Stark County and Carroll County, I heard people in Jackson Township and in North Canton and in Massillon and elsewhere saying, that damn Canton. Yeah, boy, do they have problems. It was all of our problems. And we are so entrenched there. I think it's going to be generational, to be honest with you. But we got to start someplace. To get the community trying to, you're not going to solve any of these or attract any of these ideas unless the whole community is trying to work. The question is, how do you do that? Is a very important question.
I'll come back, I mean, he tied into it a little bit. You made the comment about racial diversity, and I'm going to talk about just diversity in general in reference to the communities that are succeeding on that list and the ones that are not. We, as Denny mentioned, when I look around this room here, not a lot of diversity in this room. And to me, that's a big problem for our community, because we do have a lot of diversity, or at least we have some diversity in our community that should be represented better. But other cities that are doing well, and again, you look at those areas that are doing well, it's not just about black and white. It's about international investment in cultural diversity and a lot more inclusion to different ethnic groups and countries and investment. And a lot of those new dollars for growth are coming from international investment. We're seeing it from a development fund, when we're working with businesses that are looking for site selectors, and we have a chance to work with them. We're getting more companies from China, from Europe, from India, from Israel. Those are the companies that are looking to invest and expand. We got to find a way to make them feel comfortable in this community, because they're going to other communities where they are welcome and see like faces, and it makes it a little easier for them to settle down in those areas. So to me, that, you know, I don't know how big of a factor that was in your study, but I think that's a huge factor in reference to what we are doing or not doing here compared to other areas that are succeeding.
Emily, that wasn't, you may want to speak to that because it is a factor.
So
The dissimilarity index and the international index and its association with
yeah,
factors.
so well, it factors in a couple different ways. So we did have there are indexes that measure segregation. So we had it for African Americans, and we also had it for Hispanics, and that's the one where we saw associated with this idea of entrepreneurship and inclusion in more diverse areas, so higher percentage of foreign-born populations. So those are, you know, regardless of income, generally, foreign-born populations, less segregated places, were associated with every measure of growth. So that includes jobs, that includes per capita income, productivity, GMP, and those were in that second factor that we talked about.
Well,
I think an interesting topic to talk about from an education perspective, and I'm kind of drawing these conclusions on the fact that we run one of our major programs is college scholarship programs for all students in Stark County, and I think there are opportunities for certain segments of those that may be underrepresented to find champions within their own ethnicity to champion education. You know, because we'll have applications from students, and we one of the criteria that we look for is have you overcome obstacles, and we have students from inner city schools of you know, African American descent that explain obstacles oftentimes as they've overcome. You know, they're in the early college at Timken, and they're proud of that, and they had to overcome kind of bullying and teasing from, you know, their own friends where education is not cool. Where conversely you see the Asian populations where if you're not getting A's and B's, or if you're not in AP classes, you're kind of frowned upon within that group. And I think if we can find locally and regionally some people that can champion education is cool. Education does open up opportunities to certain areas of the population. I think that might help to go a long way in kind of changing that tide over time. So that you have higher levels of attainment and higher levels of achievement in those populations that we, all of us, try to include.
I like the championing of education idea, but to bring it back to the P-test, which I've heard a couple times in different contexts, I think it's a value proposition problem. I think it's not worth the $12 an hour to change your lifestyle. I think the lifestyle change has to be worth the wage. People sober up when they want a $30 an hour job because it's going to change their whole life. They're going to be able to have a family now. They're going to be able to do all this stuff, but not for 20 or not for 15. You know?
So it's not worth the money to get sober.
Totally. It has to be worth it. In order to get sober, it has to be worth it.
John?
So maybe piggybacking on that point, in schools at a young age, middle school age, start talking about careers and what's necessary. If you want to work in a hospital and you have a criminal background, or if you can't pass the drug test, it's probably not happening. So aim people at some of these higher paid careers, get them to start dreaming about these things early, but also tell them what you're going to need. Is it a science background? Good communication skills, what kind of education will you need, and get them going in that direction early on.
Or if you're going to work the machine press, maybe I can get my college paid for free, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
John Paturis, Mark's counterpart at the Akron Community Foundation. I remember about a year and a half ago, I was at a Akron Chamber Board meeting, which I am a member, and I'll never forget a CEO of a local business looked at the president of Kent State University and he said, don't send us any more liberal arts majors. And as a liberal arts major myself, after I took offense to that, it struck me, who has responsibility to ensure that the young children, students today, are entering a field of study that will allow them to stay here, to buy homes here, to raise their families here. I have 3 children in their 20s in Bowling Green, Columbus, and Pittsburgh. They're not here anymore. And do the business leaders have that responsibility? Do the colleges, do the high schools and the guidance counselors to be more aware of, here are the positions and opportunities in this marketplace that will allow you to, if they like this place, as we all like this place, that's why we're here, how do we ensure that happens? And there's that connectivity for all those players that are involved in that.
David, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, and some people read it the other day, and the subject matter was that in our economy, they were talking about the United States in total, that we have a risk-adverse philosophy in our economy. And there's a whole bunch of factors go into that. Taxation issues, total economic issues, financing issues, and all this kind of things. So I guess my question for some of the folks in this room who are involved in this kind of thing, are we chasing entrepreneurs away because we don't provide a positive risk environment? And this gentleman's boss in Washington has put all kinds of money out there. And I'm wondering, is that money filtering down here? Is it being distributed to potential entrepreneurs who say, yeah, I'll take the risk, or not take the risk?
Are we risk averse?
What kind of a philosophy do folks in this room understand?
Steve, what do you think about that?
Are we risk averse? I can answer 2 ways. One is under 30, probably not. Over 30, probably. The real question is, what are you doing about it? So, you don't want to use a forum to talk about what you're doing, but this community is about ready to launch what's called the Stark Entrepreneurship Alliance, which includes, if I missed somebody, I'm sorry, but started with Jumpstart on a regional basis. It includes the Canton Regional Chamber, the Y-Start program, Walsh University, University of Mount Union, Tech Alliance 2, which is a software technology venture and alliance, the Stark Development Board. So you hate to run lists, the Stark State, Kent State Stark, the Small Business Development Center, who are trying to counter the idea that, in this community, we don't think people have other alternatives than simply to go to university and become a teacher or a doctor or whatever. And we used to be there, and candidly, it's something the Development Board stopped in 1995. And back today, realizing that was a bad decision then. But, you know, people say, well, what's causing that? And the answer is because there's not a lot of role models of people saying you can do this and that, although on the college campuses there are. So we're going to have a soft launch beginning next month. You'll see a hard launch of this concept in September. But people are going to notice how all these organizations in a common brand and a common variety of services and experts and that are going to be available to help people. And the second thing is, the people in this community said to us over a year and a half ago, we couldn't raise money to create an angel fund here, pre-seed capital. And the reality is we raised over 1.1 million so far, but we're waiting to have the state match that, so we have a $2 million fund. As the idea is starting to make sure capital is available on the equity side to startups and to small companies that want to accelerate. So it's just an attitude thing. Is if you want to do it, you figure out a way to do it. And cooperation, well, one of the things strong about Stark County is that we partner all the time with organizations within this county. You know, entrepreneurship, I can tell you that fuel cell centers that ultimately led to Rolls-Royce, to LGB here, going to the Timken company and saying, why not look at a model like what Rolls-Royce did to create the Wind Center is another successful model. There's an advanced corrugated paper facility that's hopefully back on the drawing board. It's going to be the only one in the country. We can do this stuff. It's just a matter of you got to get people connected, and then you got to figure out how to go through the obstacles of finding the resources to get there. But so I think we're going to be less risk averse in the future because, frankly, our young professionals are going to demand it in the economy.